Today we're talking about learning how to say no without being a jerk. So the thing about it is that I'm really good at coming in at the last minute and kind of like just swooping in to save the day. I'm that person. I'm the person who gets things done. I'm the person who comes in and goes, oh, well, why don't we just this, right? And then people go, oh, Christina, thank you so much. And my friend, she calls it having the curse of competence. She says that you have the curse of competence. And so you keep coming in and going, oh, no, I can do this better. We can do. So, sometimes I would stay up really, really late, for example, just to have that feeling of I'm saving the day, right? And my late husband, he'd be like, what are you doing? No, I said I would do this tomorrow. And he'd be like, but isn't that for your volunteer work? And don't you have like 2 months yet before it's even due? I'd be like, no, but I said I was going to do it today. And so, it would just wreak havoc in my life. I would stay up late. I would have bad sleeping habits, all of that. And my health really suffered. And so it even got to the point where I'd be sitting there typing, building websites. I'm a front end person. I also launch marketing and advertising campaigns. So I do some graphic work here and there. And I started developing the beginnings of carpal tunnel, right? My hands would sometimes even go numb all the way up to my elbows. And so one day I was co-working with my friends and I went to her house. Like I'd always, we sat at her kitchen table. And so I came in and I had my backpack and I set up and I'm like, okay, let's go, let's get down to work. And she goes, just a minute, why don't we just go in the living room? And I was like, wait a minute, oh, we're going to work in the living room. Okay, let me pack up my computer. And I go into her living room and I was like, all right, let's do the thing. She's like, well, here, let's have some tea. I just want to talk. I'm like, what are you talking about? Let's just get to work. Let's do the thing. I'm here to work. What? And she kind of sat down. She's like, just sat down here next to me on the couch. And she said, what are we going to do about your hands? And I said, what do you mean? My hands? She said, well, your hands, they always hurt. You're getting carpal tunnel. You can barely use them. And you're still constantly working. You're working like 80 hours a week. What are we going to do about your hands? And I said, oh, but I'm building a business. My clients need me. People have to, I said that I would do these things. And she said, but honey, nobody's asking you to give up your beautiful hands for them. Like it can wait. And I was like, no. But we hustle, right? We're entrepreneurs. You have to be stronger than the pain. You just push through it. And she looked at me, and I will never, ever forget this. She looked at me and she said, well, if you think that it's not important, then let's go down to the Veterans Hospital and you can look at all of those people who've lost their hands and tell them how unimportant hands are. Right? And so here I was, just throwing around my ego all over the place, trying to prove my self-worth, sacrificing my own hands when nobody was asking me to, just so I could get that feeling of being useful, of saving the day, of proving my worth, and of having value. And, that was my wake-up call, right? That was my wake-up call. When one of your best friends sits you down and says, you have a problem. I mean, she's still one of my best friends today. I'm very grateful to have somebody like that in my life. But, not all of us have somebody like that in our life. We go around, we're overcommitting. Overcommitting used to be my absolute standard. I used to plan 10 days every quarter that I was going to be sick. And I would say, nope, I'm not. And people would say, are you getting sick? Nope, I just got to hang in there one more week. I've got this talk over here, and then I'm flying to Australia, and then I'm going to be over here, and then I'm going to do this thing, and then I'm going to be sick for 10 days. And they'd be like, what? That doesn't sound healthy. I'm like, no, it's fine. I'm just planning my burnout. I'm scheduling my burnout. It's totally fine. Never mind. I mean, when it came down to it, right, I just couldn't say no. I was so concerned with people pleasing. I was so concerned with proving my own worth and my own value that I just was overcommitting all the time. And every time I start to overcommit and I start to feel that feeling now, I remember my friend Tori sitting me down and listen, I get it. We're all hustling. We all have side projects, we have kids, we have regular work, networking, school, all of it. But today I really want to talk to people and share with you the things that I've learned. We'll go through it fairly quickly, share the things that I've learned. Even though this is kind of going to be in the context of my journey in entrepreneurship and consulting and managing nonprofits, this also has helped me in my personal life as well, in being able to stop overcommitting in order to have self-care, take care of myself. My hands no longer hurt anymore, right? I can open up my own soda cans and my own sugar without problems. I didn't used to even be able to open up a soda can before on my own. My name's Christina Aldan. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and you can find me everywhere on the interwebs. I'm Lucky Girly Girl. So based out of Las Vegas, I'm a digital advertising consultant, TEDx speaker, and a trainer. So I want to share my strategies with you here today. So thanks so much, Build Stuff. I absolutely love my Eastern European tribe. I love your stuff. Here are the objectives that I want to talk about today. So I want everybody to be able to master the art of the unapologetic no, to understand your resistance, to learn why it's important, to recognize what happens when we say yes all the time. There are obviously going to be effects, right? For every cause, there's an effect. And that's what happens when we say yes all the time. And then I'm going to share strategies with you. So reasons that we resist saying no is that we don't want to miss a sale. That's a big one. When I was building my consultancy, I just said yes to every single client, and they weren't always really a good qualified client. We want people to like us. We do that sometimes. Sometimes we resist saying no because we think we have to take on every single project that comes our way, or maybe we sincerely want to help, but it can be harmful if we're helping others and we're not taking care of our own needs first, right? Nobody was asking me to work so much that I lose the strength and the use of my hands, right? Maybe it's a super fun networking event, but even the fun things, they do take energy. And we might be afraid of being rude. Sometimes that's a reason. If we were raised culturally or in our family that we're taught, sometimes even this can be gender specific, right? Reasons we resist is maybe we just don't want to avoid conflict. That can also be a cultural thing as well that we see. Cultural. We just don't want to be a jerk, right? You don't know how. Maybe you don't know how to tactfully say, yeah, it just doesn't work for me. And that feeling of disappointment, that feeling of, oh, I might be insulting somebody is often too much. But here's the thing, when we resist saying no, it's usually because there's a fear of some kind. It all comes down to some kind of fear. So if we look at those fears and the root cause, it helps us when we are forming our strategies in how to respond. So you have to be able to identify it, and you have to be able to understand where is it coming from. So fear presents itself in lots of different ways. If we can identify it, it can actually be a benefit, right? It can actually be a lever for change. And we can shift and we can shift and shift until we start getting the results in our life that we want. So fear of abandonment is one. Fear of missing out. This one is so popular, there's an acronym for it, right? FOMO, fear of missing out. We see this a lot. Not being good enough. This is the one that trips me up over and over and over and over and over and over in my life. I struggle with this, and I find ways, especially if I overcommit, I find ways to sabotage. And so these days I try to look for the signs before it gets to that. The fear of imperfection. Sometimes we get caught up in trying to be perfect, and we just say yes to too many things because we just think it's the perfect thing. It's what we should do, Fear of not belonging. I grew up bullied, and so fear of not belonging has often been a reason why I overcommit, just because I want to fit in. I'm excited about being included, and yes, okay, I'll do it. But then when the time comes and it's a Friday night and I've already come home and I've eaten, and then there's another networking event and I got to go out, I'm like, God, do I really want to go out when I had such a long week and I just ate dinner and I'm already home in my nice cozy. So sometimes the fear of belonging, the fear of change. I've always been a person who's been pretty good with change, but I know a lot of people who struggle with change or judgment. We say yes to things and we overcommit because we think we should do something or others are going to judge us. But you know, those fears, they can be managed. And if we understand the results, if we understand why it's an important skill to be able to say no, you know, then we can start to make the decision to practice saying no more because it's valuable to us, because it means something, because it's going to get us the results that we want. And listen, results are addictive. Results are addictive. When we start doing something, even just a little tiny bit, even just a little 2% more, you start to get results. You start to want to do more of that, and you can grow and grow and grow those skills. So being able to say no is an important skill for managing your expectations. You know, we tend to push back our own needs to serve our company or our organization, but in order to stay grounded, you have to make sure you're taking time for eating, for relaxing, and when you set these boundaries, you can manage expectations better, and especially in business. Remember, I had early in my consultancy, I would take anybody on and then it wouldn't work out so well because I wasn't managing their expectations or the timelines, because I didn't even have a good idea on how long it would take me to build a website or build a social media campaign or build a funnel. So expectations and managing them is important. Another reason it's important is because of our focus. We need to focus on our goals. We're much more efficient when we focus on the goal that we want to accomplish instead of branching out and splitting our time, distracted or you know, having fractionalized work or doing something halfway. It's not a good way to succeed. It's just to throw things around halfway. It's also important because of purpose. And we must be able to maintain our vision, to stay connected to our purpose, our why. You know, maintaining that clear vision of why you're doing something is important, because when things get tough, when the going gets tough, what can happen is if it doesn't have something that's really purposeful, connected to a strong why for you, then you might not persevere. Right? Or you might just put their needs first and your purpose goes out the window. And or maybe you're only making it about your needs. You know, one could say that I was really just making about my need to feel good, and it wasn't even about me helping the clients. It was just me wanting to feel useful and feel that feeling of good enough, right? The next thing, let's see, something happened here. There we go. So the next thing, reason why it's important is because of boundaries. Good fences make good neighbors. We've heard that before. Also, our quality, the quality. You try to be as attentive as possible and focus on really giving the best of myself to every project and every moment. That's what I try to do, is to try to be in the moment. If I'm doing one-on-one coaching, if I'm doing any kind of planning, if I'm whatever it is, I try to be absolutely focused and in the moment and give the best quality. The problem when we say yes all the time, you know, we get these results that we don't want. We overcommit, we start cutting out our personal needs, playing, sleeping, eating. We get sick. We can get burnt out. Remember, I was the one who would plan 10 days of burnout every single quarter. I mean, that's just ridiculous. You can't expect to function like that. You bulldoze people. I would do this also. When we say yes all the time, we like rush through everything and we're just going, you know, and so we kind of impatiently just bulldoze through other people. What, just get out of my way. Here I come. I'm doing the thing. What, you know, and I would just bulldoze all day long, pushing. And then by like 7, 8 o'clock at night, I'd be just so tired. I'd just crash out at the end of the day. And that's just not a good way to live or work or even collaborate in a work environment. We don't deliver, you know, we make mistakes. We make a lot of mistakes if we aren't rushed. As we say in the House of Harris, we say, do it the first time or do it again. Do it right the first time or do it again. And, you know, this was something that my coach actually pointed out to me. She called me out and said, Christina, you're a flake. And I said, no, I'm not. I'm everywhere. I say yes to this, and I do this, and I do that, and I do so many things. And she said, no, in fact, because every single time for the last 3 times we were supposed to get together, you canceled on me at the last minute because you said you had something more important to do, or you said this last thing came up, or you said you realized you double booked yourself accidentally. And here I was trying to be a good friend. You know, I didn't want to say no, but instead I overcommit, and then I end up disappointing my friends anyway in the last minute and just cancel on them. And I was that flaky friend. So, you know, flakiness is a good quality for a pie, but you're not a pie, dear. And then we get resentment. We might feel resentful of the very people that we want to help when we're so exhausted and and we said yes. And then it's like, oh, I said yes. I forgot I got to do that thing. Oh my gosh. So that resentment happens. So I want to talk about strategies and the things that I try to do to change my mindset. I have some phrases here. I will give my slide deck so you can copy all those down because we'll move through them pretty fast. But you know, I want to show you some of the strategies that worked for me, and maybe they might work for you in maintaining positive relationships and communicating my boundaries in a tactful way without being a jerk, without making the other person feel like, no, I'm not interested. Your thing is stupid, you know. But sometimes that's how it felt for me. Initially, it was like death whenever I had to say no. And so I had to train my body. I had to train my communication. I had to train my physical responses, even my gut's reactions to when somebody asked me to participate in something. The first thing is to block your time for yourself and honor it. Take time to hike, to watch live music, to go to the gym, for lunch with friends. I used to block time out and then I would erase it. Somebody would call me up and say, oh, Christina, I really need you for this thing on Monday morning. And I would, oh, that's okay. I didn't need to go hiking. Oh, now it's Saturday. Hold on, now it's Sunday. Now my weekends are gone, you know, and it really got out of control. So you have to honor it. The next one is asking myself if I'm feeling obligated. Do I really want to do this, or am I feeling obligated to do it? You got to do a gut check. The next thing that I would ask is what would it take to make this an emphatic yes? That is always a really good question, because oftentimes I found myself going, well, you know, if it were this, I could do it. Well, if it was this, I could do it. And what happened was when I started doing that and communicating it back to people, I had somebody, for example, we had our Las Vegas TEDx group. And they kept saying, you know, if we had somebody, maybe you could join us as an organizer. Maybe we could, and saying, well, if you had this, and then he'd go out and get that and come back to me and go, hey, Christina, so we got this. Would you like to join us? And I'd say, well, you know, if you had this, and then he'd go out and he'd get that, and he came back. And after about a year, he came back and said, hey, Christina, we're ready for, you know, would you join our organizing committee? And I said, yes, I will, because you know what? All of the things that it would have taken for me to have an emphatic yes, they happened. All those conditions happened. And because I communicated them, it really worked. But I knew that if I jumped in a year earlier, it would have meant me overcommitting and not being able to show up in a way that I wanted to. Another thing you can do is practice and to gamify it. So, you know, practice saying no with the little things first. You could tell your friends and family that you're practicing, and they're even going to be more willing to help. So I would make a game out of it. I would post things up on Facebook, and I would say, somebody ask me a yes or no question. And then I was not allowed to say no. So I'd get these really convoluted answers. I would be like, no, I don't not love you, because when you like we'd have these double negatives in the sentences and stuff. And I just made it real fun, you know, and I did this for about 2 or 3 months on Facebook. I did it on Twitter. I did it with my family and my friends, and they were all coming up with creative ways to try to get me to say no. It was really fun. The other thing you can do is, you know, you just got to decide, right? Make a decision, stick to it. So if you're wishy-washy, it's not really professional. And listen, here's the thing. If you're wishy-washy and you don't honor your boundaries, then why should anyone else, right? Another thing you can do is you can hack your brain. Now, I'm all about mindset. I teach emotional intelligence. I do workshops all around the country, the world. I have some online things. You know, I do a lot of mentorship and brand coaching and how to connect with your audience. So mindset and emotions is my thing. So ways to hack your brain, I change my passwords. So I would do something like I would think about, okay, listen, I'm on Twitter multiple times a day. I'm on Facebook multiple times a day. I'm on email multiple times a day. I would make it a point to log out, so that every time I wanted to check Facebook, I would have to log in. And I would say things, I would change my passwords randomly. It would be like, saying no comes easily to me. Just say no, don't be a jerk. I'd say, no way, Jose. Just, you know, random stuff like that. The best passwords, you know, they're long phrases anyway. And so having that as a subconscious repetition, what we know about how the brain stores information is in chunks and relativity. So changing your passwords is a really good way to hack your brain. Another way is to shift your perspective, to try to see it from a third person point of view. And, you know, think about how would you feel. Well, I do this exercise. You can think about how you feel in your body. You can imagine the other person sitting in a chair across from you, how they would feel. And then the real kicker is to zoom out of the room as if you're watching it on TV, and really see it from a third person point of view, and watch the interactions that you have. And you can better understand what role you're playing, what role they're playing, and why maybe in that scenario it's so hard for you to say no, and what you can change. Another thing you can do is NLP and hypnosis, neuro-linguistic programming, to change the programs of your mind, essentially. I always recommend Heidi Heron. She's terrific. Hypnosis, audio books. There are lots of different things that you can do to hack your brain on a subconscious level, even to help change those patterns and break them up. The reality is that, you know, practice makes perfect. So the things that I like to do is just take it for 3 months and just become a student of whatever it is that I'm learning. And I took this time to be able to say no, and just really dove in, and it helped. You know, I essentially did this self-directed study. I did all of these things for like 3-4 months. I read every single thing I could find: blog posts, articles, research papers, white papers, Psychology Today, everything about boundaries and saying no over that 3-4 months. I played with my Facebook tribe. Remember, I said I gamified it, right? Listening to audio, either hypnosis or NLP. I would set reminders on my calendar, and I'm going to show you some of those exact phrases that I used that were very successful for me. I would watch videos. I would put pen to paper. I would write down when I was super frustrated, for example, about, oh, this just happened. I overcommitted again. I don't know why I said yes. And then I look at those parts of that interaction where the conversation could have gone differently. And of course, the next time somebody came in and asked me, hey, Christina, will you do this thing? I was better prepared because I had processed my emotions around it a little more. And I understood by shifting my perspective after the fact. The reality is, you know, we teach best what we need to learn. So here I am. Teaching all you, sharing what I've learned. And then role playing is another way, you know, shifting perspective, maybe trying to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, or even role play with a friend. Hey, I'm doing this thing. You be so-and-so, I'm going to be me. Let's see what we can do so I can say no. She always gets me to say yes, and then I overcommit. I need to break this pattern. You can role play with somebody. And these are the phrases that I have. We don't have a whole lot of time left, but I want to share these with you. And like I said, I'll give you the copy of my presentation as well, so you can just keep these. But these are some of the responses that I recorded as pop-ups for my calendar. And I just kept using this over and over again, the same kind of language. Thanks so much for thinking of me. I do have another commitment at the time, but here's another person. I'm not the best person to help out with this. There's probably somebody more appropriate to ask. That's something I say often for people who ask me to write them referrals or reviews, and I know that the referral or review is probably not going to be very good. There's probably somebody more appropriate to ask. I say if it were any other day or time, I'd do it. Unfortunately, I have another commitment. Now, this is important to note that if it's really unfortunate and you're sorry, then yes, say this. But if you don't want to do this and it's not unfortunately, then don't say that. You always have to be authentic, because what's going to happen if I say, you know, if it was another time, I would do it. Then they say, oh, okay, how about tomorrow then, or the day after? And you go, oh, no, I was trying to say no. All right, yeah, I'll do it the day after. So you've got to be careful with that. You still have to be mindful in who you're talking to. It just doesn't work for my calendar. I love this one because that darn calendar again, man, calendar strikes again. Just doesn't work for my calendar. And that way I'm blaming it on the calendar. There's this separation, and it takes it away from me feeling like I'm disappointing somebody or letting somebody down, right? This doesn't meet my needs now, but I'll keep you in mind for the future. I use this one on LinkedIn all the time because I get so many people on LinkedIn who want to connect. No, unfortunately, looks like that won't work for me. Just a plain old no. Thank you for thinking of me, but my calendar's full. What does the first week of next month look like for you? Right? These are all things that you could just say, I just don't feel like I could give you my full time. I just don't feel like I could give you my full time and attention. That's another one. I'm already committed. Yeah, exactly. And then promised my business partner I wouldn't take on any more projects. I love having a business partner. You can play good cop, bad cop on this one, right? And then I can't do this, but let me tell you what I can do. People really appreciate that too when I set those clear boundaries. And you know, if the person still pushes on you, if you've tried all of these kind, tactful responses, then the reality is you're dealing with a jerk, you know? And I give you full and complete permission to be rude back to them. That's the time when you can be a jerk. If somebody's really pushing on your boundaries, they're not getting it, you've already said no multiple times, you can just bounce, remove yourself from the situation. You're dealing with somebody who's not going to listen anyway, and they're going to find a way to be disappointed or rude or whatever. Maybe they might even try to be even more manipulative to get you to say yes. But you know, at the end of the day, you have to just really understand that if you do say, keep me in mind for later, that you really mean it. You know, it's much more important to be authentic. And to remember that a reluctant no is still a yes, right? So these days, if it's not a hell yes for me, like it's definitely a definitive no. And the important thing to remember is that no is a complete sentence. And you don't have to be a jerk about it. Thank you very much, everybody. I appreciate your time.